If you've ever opened a blank page trying to write a sweet romance novel and you've thought, I don't know how to start, this video is for you. Hello, I'm Lorna Faith and I write in many different genres of fiction, but I also write sweet romance books with my pen name Melody Archer. I enjoy helping beginner writers who want to write sweet romance stories that connect deeply with readers. Today I'm going to show you how to write your very first sweet romance scene without worrying about whether it's good, polished, or perfect. Because the truth is, the first scene of your sweet romance novel's only job is to introduce the main character in their ordinary world and to give a hint of their fears and worries and some problem or obstacle that they are facing. In a sweet romance novel, there are some overarching goals we want to include that will fulfill reader expectations. As writers, we do want to fulfill the promise that we make to our readers and give them what they hope for in a sweet romance. In a romance novel, readers do want more than 50% of the plot to be dedicated to romance, and they do want that happily ever after ending. So let's talk about that first scene, and I'll share some tips that hopefully will be helpful to you as you write that first chapter, that first scene in your novel. Part 1. Let's talk about what a first scene is really for. Beginner writers often think the first scene has to hook everyone, explain the entire story, or be beautifully written. And it doesn't, at least not your first draft. You'll get it more polished as you revise and edit later. But the first scene in your first draft only needs to do one main thing. Introduce us to your main character and the problems that they are dealing with in their ordinary world before love changes them. So in this first scene, as you open up the book, readers are looking for something that will show them your main character, her ordinary world, and the problems that they're dealing with. Like, maybe they're a waitress waiting tables or a single mom, and so she's busy at work, but she's also busy at home, and she's trying to make ends meet. Their ordinary world, and then this is before they meet the love interest. This is before love changes them. And so that's really what the first scene is for. But it's also good if you can give a hint of their backstory. And this can be through conversation. The 3 things that every first sweet romance scene needs. It's good if you can keep this simple. Your first scene needs a moment in their ordinary life. So show your character doing something normal, like working. What kind of job does she have? Is she a waitress? Is she a maid? Is she, or maybe she's a lawyer. Maybe she's a doctor. So show your character doing something normal. It's also good if you can show them helping someone. Maybe she helps her grandma carry the groceries into her house. Something where she is helping others. This actually creates reader empathy for your main character, which is a wonderful thing. And it creates likability. You do want your readers to like your main character, right? And so just simple things like that. Or maybe she helps her neighbor, has a daughter, and her daughter is crying because her cat is stuck in the tree. So she helps, climbs up the tree to help save the cat. This makes the main character likable. And readers love to see that in a story. Another moment in their ordinary life would be, they're just going about their routine. If they have a job as a doctor, you show them driving to the hospital. Maybe even show a couple scenes where they are talking with their patients, maybe with their colleagues or a nurse. By doing this, this grounds the reader emotionally. And so they have a feeling of where the story is in that first scene. And that's important, right? Because then they feel like, okay, I'm here. Readers come to read your book for the emotional experience. They want to be like they are, almost like an actor or an actress as part of the movie, which is your book. They want to experience it, so it's that real for them. This is what I've noticed from different comments I get from readers. And so this actually helps. It teaches me how to write better so that the story comes alive and makes the reader feel like they've literally been, parachuted into the movie scene. And so these are little things that will help. So A moment in their ordinary life. B, show readers a hint of what is missing. So maybe your main character feels lonely. Maybe she avoids relationships. You could show this. Maybe she gets a call from her sister, and her sister says, how come you're not dating Brad anymore? I thought you two really hit it off last time. And then maybe your main character says, no way, he turned out just to be, like the last guy I dated. I've decided men aren't trustworthy. I'm never falling in love. Maybe she goes on a tangent. So this, by saying that, by having a dialogue like that, you could hint at what her wounds are, right? That she doesn't trust men, that she is never going to get into a relationship. She's never falling in love again. Somehow you would throw in there, I just don't believe love is for me. And maybe that would be part of the dialogue. So these are ways of, instead of writing out a paragraph, a backstory, these are ways that you can subtly show it in through dialogue, through a conversation. The important thing is that instead of explaining it, it's actually better if you can show it, if you can show their wounds and give hints of their fears through conversation. It's a great way to do it. These are details that readers will need to know, which means as the writer will need to know them even more. We need to know the main character's internal plot. So what is going on in the main character's emotions? This is the deep emotional wound from their childhood or somewhere in their past that has left your character with some kind of anxiety or pain. And you really do want to dig into the backstory, wounds, fears, and flaws of your hero and heroine so that you can give your readers a hint of what these might be in your first scene and, I guess, in your first chapter. For example, in the sweet romance books I write, it's when I write that first, second, and often third chapters that I get a real sense of the main character's deep wounds and fears and flaws. And it's really important to get a deep understanding of these wounds because that is what will show up in later chapters in the book and will help to stir up the conflict, really. But it'll also show up in the climax as the main characters, in most novels, your main character will need to face their greatest fear at the climax. Here's a simple example. If your heroine has a deep wound of feeling unloved as a child, somehow she grew up feeling unworthy of love, then this will help you to understand what her deep fears and her insecurities will be when she meets the hero. She will have moments of real doubt that the hero loves her. And, your heroine might even believe that she's unworthy to be loved. So knowing this, that will help you to write the story in a way where your heroine is forced to face her fear of being unloved. Perhaps throughout the novel, the heroine keeps running away, protecting herself from rejection. It stems from the rejection she faced in her childhood. However, maybe at the climax, maybe the hero is about to walk away from her at a public event. He just can't take it anymore because she never believes him. Maybe this time, instead of letting the hero walk away and staying quiet like she usually does, maybe the heroine steps to the hero's side and says, I spent my whole life thinking I wasn't someone worth choosing, that I wasn't worthy of love, but I'm going to tell you right now I love you and I'm tired of running. Maybe she makes a confession. And that's a great climax. So falling in love is really something that throws a monkey wrench into your hero and heroine's plans and goals for both of them. In our sweet romance, we write the change and the growth so our characters will be ready to fall in love. And they will have to resolve some fears from their past. And they will grow and change and transform so that they will be ready for love. Another important element is the emotional note, or notes, I guess, that you add to your scene. It's good if you can end your first scene in your sweet romance novel. If you can end the scene with a question, a longing, or you can hint at their fears and wounds Sometimes writers do this by having the main character talking with her best friend, and the best friend is asking, just like in the previous example, is asking questions about her life, and the hero or the heroine explains, "I refuse to fall in love again. I don't trust men." Maybe she goes on a tangent. It's really good if you can end the scene with some of these points, right? A question, a longing, a hint at their fears and wounds. Some points to remember for your first chapter, so your first scene and even your first chapter in your sweet romance novel. It's good if the love interests meet early in the novel. So this is where the hero and heroine meet each other. Or if it's a second chance romance, they see each other again after years of being apart. It's better if the meet cute happens in the first 4 or 5 pages. It's just kind of what nowadays, what romance readers seem to like best is if the meet cute, which is the first meeting of the hero and the heroine, if it happens a little earlier on. So to please our sweet romance readers, they really want to see the hero and the heroine on the page early on. Good questions to ask are, how can I make the hero and heroine's lives intersect a lot? How can I force them together? How can you plan the book so they will basically be together for more than half of the novel? These are good questions to ask, and then to sort of brainstorm how you can do that. And another point to remember, it's important to weave the internal and external goals together between both the hero and the heroine. Put the love interests together on the page often and intersect their plots, as each main character is chasing after their external goals as they are falling in love with each other. You don't want your main characters in your sweet romance to fall in love too quickly, because then readers will think that your novel is done and they'll close the book, and we don't want that. So you want there to be a lot of conflict that the hero and the heroine must work through. I just encourage you not to worry about in your first draft, don't worry about fancy descriptions or perfect dialogue, or don't worry about whether readers will love it. Seriously, just write from the heart as you've been brainstorming this sweet romance novel. Write the parts that excite you. Try to write that first scene to really bring readers into the ordinary day of your main character, and show them being kind to someone, and somehow to make your main character likable. This really will make readers really like your main character and make them empathetic to them, and which is what you want. You want your readers to be empathetic and to really like your main character, and to make it relatable so that they understand your main character's situation. These are all important points, and if you can do that, readers will love that first scene and that first chapter. But don't put too much pressure on yourself. I just want to say that again. I know I mention that quite often in my videos, but I remember when I first started writing, I had too much of a perfectionist mindset where, every word, every paragraph, I would scour it over and over again. And you don't need to do that. I just want to encourage you to give yourself permission to just enjoy the story and just get the story out onto the page. That's really how writers finish books, because too much analysis and overthinking as a writer, it'll just keep you stalled, and reruns of this chapter and that chapter. And it's okay to read through it, and I do that every time I start the next chapter. I'll read through usually the chapter before, just to get my head immersed in the story. But I don't edit that chapter because then it's like my brain switches to editing mode, and I don't want my brain to be in editing mode when I'm trying to write the first draft. You want to really enjoy and have fun with writing this first draft of your first scene and of your first chapter. Your readers really will notice it when you are enjoying writing your book. Here's an idea. Here's a story prompt, something to try that you could use today. So write a scene where your main character is going about their day, their ordinary day, and notices something that makes them stop and reminds them of what they don't have. So that's really short and sweet. You know, as you brainstorm your sweet romance, think about writing that scene. So here it is again. Write a scene where your main character is going about their ordinary day and notices something that makes them stop and reminds them of what they don't have or what's missing in their life. Try setting a timer for 20 minutes and don't stop. Keep writing and don't edit. Just write it for 20 minutes. Just see what you've written. I think you'll be encouraged. Let the story pour out of you. Have fun. This is sweet romance. This is fun to write. Readers will notice the difference. I promise you. They'll notice the difference. So thanks for listening. If you want help writing your first few scenes step by step, I've created a sweet romance story starter pack PDF with simple prompts and worksheets that you can download for free. To grab your free copy of that PDF, click the link in the description below. And remember, your first scene doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs to get written. So start writing today, and I'll see you in the next video.